He fooled all of us. President Abinader recently proposed massive fiscal reform and tax reform here in the Dominican Republic, and then withdrew it. And people are celebrating like crazy. Comments like, "This is a win for democracy. So glad he listened." And even other political parties are praising him for pulling this back at the will of the protesting people. But what did he really do? He anchored you. What does that mean? I'll explain. In fact, you might be able to use this yourself in business or negotiation. And I'm going to explain what I believe is next, all in this video. Thanks for today's sponsor, Colchones Naco. So the president of the Dominican Republic puts out this huge reform bill proposal that did a lot of things. It increased taxes on alcohol, increased taxes on sugary drinks. It reduced tax incentives or eliminated them for real estate, for the film industry, and other things. It was wildly unpopular. There were protests at the presidential palace. It was seen as the end of the middle class, the end of the lower income folks who can barely afford to make it today if they had to also pay these brand new taxes in this reform bill. After the reform bill got all this attention and all this press and all these protests, he announced recently, you know what? My bad, take it back. We're not going to push this thing through. And it prompted a lot of celebration, obviously. Now, again, is it a win for democracy? Yes. Is it the will of the people can make change? Absolutely. Because if nobody said anything, then hey, they'll push it right through. But I don't know. I'm a little bit more skeptical of any government and what their intentions are. Let me give you an example. Look, 85% of my audience are men. Let me tell you how your wife can do exactly what Abinader is doing to you to get what she wants. And ladies, if you use this technique with your husbands, sorry, I'm revealing it. Let's say your wife wanted a new purse, and she knows in her mind, but doesn't tell you, that the new purse she wants is this Prada, Gucci, whatever thing that costs $2,000. She also knows you, and that hearing $2,000 might absolutely explode your mind. She knows how you're gonna react. So does she say, "I want a $2,000 purse"? Of course not. Instead, what she does is say, "I want this $10,000 purse." Now, why would she do such a thing? Well, here's why. When she says, "I want this $10,000 purse," you're gonna lose your mind, obviously.
No freaking way you're getting a $10,000 purse.
But your mind also starts to get around the idea that, oh my God, but what if I do buy this thing? 10 grand. Especially if she persists, she doesn't back down, she kind of stays in it like,
"But babe, I really want this purse. I mean, I feel like I've earned it. I've worked hard."
yada, 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 whatever women do. And remember, she knows she wants the $2,000 purse. So after this back and forth and after getting you to the brink, she goes,
"You know what, babe, you're right. I don't want that $10,000 purse. But what about this purse? This one's nice too, and it's only $2,000.
I am the one.
Now what you might say is,
Oh my God, yes. And hey, get that $500 pair of shoes too.
in your mind, you're saving $7,500. Not because you spent the 10K, but you started to get prepared for it. This is a concept called price anchoring. It is an incredible sales technique. And for those that are critical of Abinader, one thing you can't say is that he's a stupid guy. Here's an example of how I used price anchoring when selling something before. For a period of time after I quit my job, I was helping out as a sales consultant for an entrepreneur community. You had to have $1 million in net worth to be a part of it, and the fee to enter was $10,000 per year. So when I would talk to somebody or teach somebody how to talk to a prospect who doesn't know the price, but they're getting on a call to talk about possible membership, and then they're going to learn the price, the whole beginning of that conversation, I would tell them to anchor prices in that conversation. So yes, it's $10,000 a year to be a member, but there are different events and other things you can attend, and it could push that amount up to $15,000, $20,000. So as we're having this casual conversation and I'm learning about this prospect, this person who wants to be a member and doesn't know the price, what I'm saying are things like, this is why people spend 15, 20 grand a year to be a part of this community, to do this, to go to these events, and da. So I'm sticking in the brain of the prospect 15, 20 grand, 15, 20 grand. And as we're having this conversation and we're building a relationship, their mind is playing over and over again like,
15, 20, I mean, maybe it's worth it, but that's 20 grand? I gotta come up with 20 grand?
And as we go through the conversation, the question finally comes up, okay, if you're willing to move forward, here's how it works. You do this, you do that, and the annual tuition is $10,000. For the prospect, they're going, oh wait, only 10? And it increases their likelihood to buy. This is not anything that I came up with. This is a very clear sales strategy, and you could put any numbers you want in here. If you believe something is going to be $20 or $30 and they charge you 10, you think you're getting a deal, even if that thing is worth 5. So bringing it back to Abinader, what he essentially said to the population is, I don't want this bill, and I know that you, like the wife getting the purse knows the husband would, are going to react poorly to what I put out there. So let me go big. Let me throw this out there. Let me just put out an impossible scenario to get past. So that now when I present to you after withdrawing and looking like the good guy, I present to you a better deal, the one I really want, the likelihood of you pushing back on me is way, way less. So imagine if he had come out with exactly what he wanted or really close to it with the first offer. No matter what, people were going to protest. The likelihood of them protesting now, way less. Not saying they won't, but way less. Because whatever he comes up with now will face less scrutiny because he already anchored people on the worst possible scenario. Many people, you and me included, at least were coming to terms with the fact, wow, this could pass. This actually could. Now, I didn't believe it would. I predicted it on my last video. In fact, check that out real quick. Let's start with that last question. Will this pass? In my opinion, absolutely not. At least not in its current form. But the fact that he already put out there the thing that everybody revolted against sort of clears the air for him to put out something else that he truly wants. Exhausting, right? And we haven't even gotten into what needs to be proposed, the impact. Now look, there are negative consequences for the economy. They've already happened because he withdrew this bill. People are happy, but the markets are not. I'll explain that in a moment. And there does need to be something proposed. We're going to get into that as well. But I know like this is exhausting. I want to give you a chance to take a break, take a rest, maybe get a couple of pillows. In fact, check this out. I'm so proud to be working with Colchones Naco, a Dominican-owned, Dominican-manufactured, mission-focused company selling Sealy, Serta, Simmons, and even their own Naco Royal line of mattresses. We own 3 of these bad boys, plus a bedroom set. When we went shopping for our new place, we couldn't find a better deal on mattresses than right here. And now they're celebrating their 3-year anniversary with up to 60% off this month in October. And they always have different deals. And I'll tell you what, if you type in this coupon code, the greatest coupon code ever, El Gringo 24, you're gonna get 2 free pillows with that purchase of a mattress. So you just got your new condo or you're moving down here, check out Colchones Naco, get your mattresses here. Trust me, I'm a customer, love it here. And while I'm here, I'm gonna get a little rest. Whew, still tired. In fact, let's go for a ride just so I can wake up a bit here. Okay, so you've been anchored. How do you overcome that? That's the first thing. Well, it's fairly simple. You need to pretend you never saw the first proposal. So imagine with the newest proposal, whenever it comes out, and it will come out, that it is the first salvo that he's offering to the people. Now look, it might be great. You might look at it and say like, actually, okay, I understand I was anchored before, but this is actually really fair and I understand what's in it. But me being kind of a tin hat wearing conspiracy theorist when it comes to any government, why would he go this extreme on the first shot if what he really wanted didn't have some things in there that might be controversial? But either way, look at it like you've never seen one before and react accordingly, good or bad. Look, I have said this about this administration and I could be proven wrong for sure, but if I just look back over the 15 or so years I've been coming here and I've been associated to the Dominican Republic, this one seems to be the most tuned in to the power of a democracy and the power of a growing economy. So I give it credit for that. That doesn't mean though that they're not freaking politicians. I don't care whether you like him, Harris, Trump, Fernandez, whoever it might be, they all suck. And they all are trying to manipulate you. Ready for a tangent? This is the tangent side. Why did he now? Not why did he now, but why did he now? Many of us look at the Diddy situation, P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Sean Puffy Combs, whatever the hell his name is, as like, oh, finally the people are waking up. Yes, but don't you think that behind the scenes, whoever the powers are go, the people are waking up. Throw him Diddy. Throw him something. This has been out there forever. Everyone knows about his freak-off parties, and there's all this stuff that people like Cat Williams and Dave Chappelle have been talking about with Diddy for years. So why now? It's a distraction. It's legitimate, and it should happen. The guy's a freak, but it is a distraction. Never, ever, ever believe that what you're seeing doesn't have smoke and mirrors in front of it. That includes this initial proposal and what the next proposal will have. Okay, off the tangent. So look, I'm now going to give you something that might upset some of you, and that is that reform needs to happen. That tax revenue is important. The most popular things that people talk about as far as the right reform would be to reduce the size of government, eliminate waste, and maybe even increase the ability to collect taxes that are being evaded. In other words, taxes that should be paid now based on all the laws that are in place but aren't being paid because of bad oversight and or bad systems for collection. And I agree with both of those. However, I'm also a realist. Tell me a government that is retracted in the last 100 years for more than a couple of years. I don't know of any. Hell, New Zealand did, but they are back and then some as far as the size and scope of their government. Tell me a government that doesn't have waste. Tell me a government that doesn't have corruption. They don't exist. Now, that doesn't mean that leaders should not be held accountable. But what it does mean is you should have an expectation for waste. You should have an expectation that there will be corruption and there will be more government and or wasteful government, period. None of it's acceptable. It's just reality. In the immediate aftermath of Abinader withdrawing the fiscal reform bill, the DR bond market slipped back. What does that mean? It means debt becomes more expensive. It means instability in the economy. It means that the international community and investors internationally aren't looking at DR for a minute until they get more clarity on what their fiscal reform will be. Increased tax revenue in some way, shape, or form. Collect what's owed, increase it on certain sectors, reduce tax incentives, whatever it might be, will be necessary. And I think most that watch this channel are with me in saying, we get it, we agree. We just want it to be the best possible deal we can get. I love that. And I'm with you on that. But to think that it's dead, to think that things will go on as usual, no. The other unpopular theory is this idea that,
oh, it's all about the millionaires and all the lower class are going to get screwed.
DR needs more millionaires. DR needs to attract more millionaires coming here. Tell me an economy and a country that's fully developed and prosperous for any period of time where they have less millionaires. It doesn't exist. And incentivizing those millionaires through taxes is absolutely the right move. Here's what I mean. Say you're saying, man, these millionaires need to pay their fair share. We got to tax them higher. How is my income tax rate as a secretary 20% and the millionaire is at 2% or 5% or even not paying anything? That's bullshit. It can feel that way. And I'm not against the idea of closing a few loopholes, but you have to look at how this all funnels. Rich people are rich because they own businesses. You tax the wealthy. What do the wealthy do? They charge more to the bottom line customer to pay for what they're losing in tax revenue. That's one. Two is income tax is like scratching the surface on the tax potential of the ultra wealthy. They pay employment tax. They pay unemployment tax. They pay property taxes. They pay for all the workers' comp coverages out there. They take the risk and therefore need to spend the money on all the things that most people don't want to. They also go out and spend money, good money, on services, experiences, and everything else. So think about it here. Which person would you take? The person making $1,000 a month who will spend $50 a month in a place where the store is actually going to charge them the 18% ITBIS. I think I said it right this time. Or the guy or gal making a ton of money, spending 20 grand a month, and all of it gets taxed at 18%. DR has grown from 9,000 to 15,000 millionaires in the last 10 years. That's a nice jump, and it's going to be required that that number keeps going up. Closing loopholes and incentives for real estate investors is a bad idea. You can modify them, you can improve them, you can compare to the other markets and say, hey, we're so good, we could track back and still be better than other places like Jamaica or the Bahamas or whatever, and attract that foreign investment. But again, the lack of a reform bill or the fact that it was withdrawn, yay by the people, but not yay by the markets. The markets are not responding well because they don't care about the people. The markets care about whether or not this particular entity, in this case a country, is investable. It's a balancing act, right? It's delicate. It's like, all right, I want to attract these millionaires. You made the case, Jamie. I get it, all that investment, but I don't want it to be at the expense of the lower classes. And I get that. And it can happen, but just know this, another fact of life. There will be haves, there will be have-nots, and you do your best to eliminate that gap, but elimination is not possible. So what do I believe the right reform bill should include in it? I believe that there should still be great tax incentives for international investment, whether it's in real estate or other sectors. I believe that the film industry has a lot of potential here and should remain intact without eliminating their tax incentives. I believe manufacturing and the zona francas, the free trade zones, should be amplified and supported and pushed to create more business here. I believe there should be some reduction and or audit where you can reduce government to the extent that is possible, but I don't rely on that. I also believe that there should be robust tracking systems installed, modernized to collect taxes that aren't being collected currently. My buddy Sergio Carlo, in my interview with him, said we need to go away from an all-cash society. We need to go to a digital currency society. And in the moment, I was so shocked I didn't have the chance to ask him back, like, are you crazy? You don't trust the government and yet you want this? His point was, if we could see where the money's going, we can abolish corruption. True, but you also give a lot of power to a government, and I'm not that guy. So the proposal will have new taxes in it. I don't doubt that. But I believe robust language around where they're going to make sure it's appropriated correctly. Cut back a little bit. Take a little bit of money out of the system. Scale back on departments that are failing, or combine some to make them more efficient. And tell me how you're going to collect taxes, because there's a lot that's not being paid here. Start with those, and the rest of it can fall under it. If that is what's promoted in the next bill, I think it's an excellent bill. Do I believe that'll be the top 2 lines in the next bill? No. This is where all of you need to scrutinize and understand, consider this the first proposal. Now, one last thing I want to talk about is debt. There's a lot of language out there about
oh my God, this president has borrowed more than any other president, da 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 da.
And I understand 2 things about debt. One is a lot of debt doesn't feel very good. And then 2, in this culture in particular, the posture around debt is very conservative. Dominicans don't like debt, and I love that about Dominicans. My debt, honestly, a mortgage in the States. That's it. I have no other debt whatsoever that I'm responsible for. No car payment, no credit cards, nada. So I'm a fan of not a lot of debt. However, when I'm growing, I know I need to take on debt. I know I need to invest in myself in order to grow. DR is growing. You're going to take on more debt. The key number is this. When a country gets above 77% debt to GDP ratio, that means for every dollar of gross domestic product, there's 77 cents or more in debt. That's the point at which a government starts to not be able to pay it back over time. DR, from everything I've seen, is somewhere between 60 and 65. So well below that line, but definitely is worth watching and keeping an eye on. And without continued growth, if GDP goes down, that debt percentage goes up. So there is reliance upon continued growth here. But here's the thing. Some will say, well, that's not reasonable. And I agree with you in most places. This country has figured some shit out from a tourism perspective, medical tourism perspective, manufacturing, microchip development, and reduction, not elimination, but reduction of corruption and improving its standing in the developed world. The Dominican Republic is in a lane, man. And is this the time to cut back on borrowing because we don't feel good about it? Depends on you and your risk tolerance. But if it's up to me and I don't have a high risk tolerance, I say be smart, but go all in. Tell me a time in history that the Dominican Republic had a better chance to improve the life for people living here overall than right now. Now, I get it. Some of you may feel like they'll never do it. It's only going to go to the rich. I understand where that comes from. I didn't say where they will absolutely do it. I'm asking, when was there a better chance? In my time being around the Dominican Republic and what I've studied of history, I've never seen it. But I haven't been a lifetime Dominican. Some of you may know some better times where there was much more prosperity, where GDP growth was 5% plus year over year, where the Dominican Republic was second only to Mexico in tourist intake, where roads and infrastructure were in better shape than what they are right now, where corruption was at an all-time low. Maybe there was a better time in history. I don't know, but I just haven't seen that for this country. This is the Dominican Republic's moment. Watch the debt. Watch the politicians. But if you've been playing in the minor leagues and now you're stepping into the majors and you bring the same playbook with you, you're probably not going to have much success at the next level. There's an old adage I love, which is whatever got you here is exactly what prevents you from getting there. And I can speak to that. I know a lot of guys who would say this, man, everything it took for me to get to $5 million, all those same things are what's preventing me from going from $5 to $10 million. And to make it even more practical, think of it this way. From $0 to $5 million, these people can do it on their own. Maybe they have 1, 2 people they had to hire to kind of get them there, but it's just through sheer force of will, hard work, grit, determination, sweat equity, they get to 5 million. And then they go, oh, I'm going to double this, but I'm already working 80 hours. I'm already grinding and pushing. I already don't see my wife and kids. You can't make more time, so you're going to have to do something different. If you continue to grind and push and hustle and use your time, which is what got you to 5 million, that's exactly what will prevent you from getting to 10 million. Think of the Dominican Republic that way, my friends. Not throw caution to the wind, let them do whatever they want. I'm not saying that. Someone's already saying that in the comments. Jamie, it sounds like you're advocating for... Shut up. I'm not advocating for shit. I'm just explaining to all of you my take and my experience economically, my history as an executive in a large company, digging into the financials in that role as well as an entrepreneur, and then projecting the future and what I've seen. Am I right? I don't know, but this is my take on my channel. I'm not for or against anything other than this. I'm all about the growth of this country. I'm all about as many people as possible not being left behind. I'm all about not having an 8-year-old wash my windshield when I'm at a stoplight. I don't like that. I want to see that improve. That kid, come on. And with prosperity, those sorts of things can go away. But will it mean additional debt? Will it mean new taxes? Will it mean certain things that, man, in the past have always felt like, you're taking from me, Dominican government? Absolutely it will. And all I can think is, if this government is any different, even a little bit, we got to see. Otherwise, the other alternative is, let's not do anything different and DR stays right where it is and loses all of this momentum. This went way longer than I thought it was going to, but I got into this topic and I hope you learned something about price anchoring. Use it. If you're in sales, freaking use it. Or if your wife tries this shit on you with a purse, now you know how to overcome it. Like, you ain't anchoring me, baby. I should get that t-shirt made. Trust El Gringo at the bottom. I got like 8 t-shirts in me. Anyway, some of you might be wondering about this fiscal reform to begin with. Here you go. Click here and they'll give you everything that was in that bill. But otherwise, I'll see you on the next one.